Added an interesting perspective to this Wake Forest NC State series. He said Wake Forest really enjoys this game. They get up for this game, juice for this game. It got me thinking. Do you think perhaps they treat this more of like your UNC game than maybe you guys see it as another game instead of the game?
You know, I mean, we definitely see it as an in-state rivalry game. I mean, it's the longest standing in-state rival from a consecutive game standpoint. So we're aware of that. I think with our football team and even in the UNC week, we got to be our best us. Like if I spend all my time talking about the rivalry, I mean, it's about how we're going to play in this game that matters. And, you know, I think just from being here, the buildup of certain games hasn't been good for us as opposed to the focus on what we can do to play well. And so we respect them a lot. Obviously, we want to be undefeated in the state. That's something that we still control right now, and this is the next step to doing that. And we've got to play a really good football team.
Now that Devin has played 3/4 of a football game and had a full week to work, do you open up the playbook a little bit more, or was it already, you know, he had the whole thing when he was in there against Boston College?
Yeah, I mean, I think opening up the playbook's the wrong thing to do. I think we got to be about executing the playbook. You know, I mean, whatever the plays are, whether we've got 50 or 100 in the game plan, we got to execute. We got to catch passes. We got to protect our quarterback. We got to see the run lanes. We got to finish blocks. We just got to play football. And you know, Devin is excited. He's done a good job. I'm excited for him. I think he's got a good look to him. But you know, I think adding plays to a guy that's going into his first start, that doesn't make sense. I mean, it's about executing plays.
Cecil Powell moving back to defense, how valuable is it to have a guy who can move around like that? And also for a kid that's still young, how difficult is it for him to bounce back from one to the other?
Remarkably not difficult for him. He played both ways in high school, so he's used to being on both sides of the football. And he was recruited by other schools as a wideout, so he has that skill set. It's out of necessity for us. I mean, we have 4 corners that are out, you know, so to have the ability to have even a 2 deep at this point with that is pretty crazy, you know. I mean, the fact that we've got Devon and Malik and Keyshawn and Cecil, we still have 4 guys we feel really good about.
Yeah, we get a first extended look maybe at Joshua Harris on the field.
Yeah.
You know, what did you kind of see in the Boston College game from him?
He's getting better. You know, I mean, Josh has done a good job. He was in a position when he got here where he needed to lose weight, and he's dropped 25 pounds and still needs to get lighter. He played well with his hands. I think conditioning is always going to be a factor when you're, you know, at a place where you want to be in the 320s probably with him. And so he's gotten better each week, you know, since he's come back from his injury, and that was very valuable for him to be out there. I mean, he eats up a lot of space. He can take on double teams, and he can knock the pocket back. You know, it's just about him being able to sustain it now with conditioning.
It's easy to focus on Wake Forest's passing game, but you know, what do you want to see from your rush defense to bounce back from the BC effort?
I mean, there's so many things we got to do better than we did in that game, and it's just defensive football. You talk about run defense starts with, you know, your leverage, guys being gap sound, and then it's about tackling. You know, and so for us, all of those things matter. And the games we've done that well, we've played really, really good football. And so it's just the fundamentals of run defense. And you know, Wake Forest does a nice job where a lot of plays are runs with passes, the RPO game. So you're defending both a majority of the time.
So you're an old school country guy. I see the Merle Haggard.
Yep.
Have you always been a country music fan, or is that something that you've acquired since you came here south?
Well, when I was painting houses in high school, my basketball coach was our boss, and he had this big old jukebox, and he pulled the knob off so you couldn't change the channel and left it on country radio. and so there was 2 kinds of music growing up, country and western, and you knew every word of every song, you know.
What is it about Merle that floats your boats?
I love Merle. I mean, everything about him, his voice, you know, the songwriting, what he's talking about, and really just, you know, all those guys that are outlaw country music singers. I enjoy that style of music.
And your son had a pretty special night last night?
Yeah, they do have senior week this week, so it was a pretty awesome event just to be able to be a part of that with him and with what the coaches do over there at Cardinal Gibbons. They do a great job.